Welcome to another installment in our mini-series on CCP estimation. Our previous video covered how we can get around the issue of unobserved heterogeneity in these models and to modify the estimation so that we could still account for permanent unobserved types. In this video, we'll talk about another limitation which has to do with counterfactual simulations and policy experiments. And the key idea here is that we can't use CCPs to avoid fully solving the model in a counterfactual setting that we don't have data on, because CCPs rely on data. So we'll talk about how we can grapple with this limitation while still producing useful insights. The main idea is that CCPs simplify estimation, but they don't necessarily simplify counterfactual simulations, because we don't observe the log of pkt plus 1 in the counterfactual world. If we did, we probably wouldn't need the structural model in the first place, because we would know what the counterfactual was. The worst case scenario if we're dealing with CCPs is that we will have to fully solve the model at least once. And this also will incur additional coding costs if we didn't ever have the computer code to solve the model in the first place. Another thing we could do is limit the type of policies that we want to evaluate or analyze. So if there's some policy in effect that lasts for some small number of periods, the CCPs after that will still be valid. And so then we would only need to solve the model for just the period that the policy is in effect. So there's plenty of examples of this with temporary policies that are enacted. Typically it has to do with taxes or subsidies, because those follow a political cycle that doesn't necessarily correlate with other time horizons in the world. And an example of this approach is in my 2022 Journal of Human Resources paper that used a dynamic migration model. So I estimated this really complicated model using CCP methods and wanted to look at several different counterfactual policies that were all temporary in nature. So the model has basically shocks to the local economy, and if those shocks are correlated spatially or not, might change someone's migration decision. And then a key policy I wanted to analyze was what happens if we pay people $10,000 to move to a location. That was actually a proposed House bill in Congress at one point in time. And the time frame of this is in the Great Recession, when there was actually a high degree of spatial correlation in these labor market shocks. So I had to limit myself to temporary policies that only lasted 1 year. And the reason for that is because my future value terms wouldn't be valid after that. And so, and the model was just not tractable to fully solve, which is why I had to use CCPs in the first place. This is a key example of a model that would not be feasible to estimate in any other way except using CCP methods. So that is a quick example of how CCPs might be useful for simplifying estimation, but not necessarily for simplifying counterfactual analysis. I hope you found this helpful, and I hope to see you in the next video.